week. I'm sitting here by myself at the bar. Not really by myself. We're going to talk a little bit about what I'm surrounded by. But it's bonus episode night. So we'll talk a little bit about the whiskey we're going to try tonight and why I've got some stuff around me. I'll keep drinking though while I do this. So I think, as most of us know by now, during our regular episodes we use random.org. Again, they're still not sending us a check for pimping their website. Come on, you guys. And we got a bottle that's been unopened in the bar. Mal and I do. On our bonus episode nights, we usually have a glass of something that has been tried already, but not with you guys. Now, Mal couldn't make it tonight because, you know, as hard as it might be to believe, he can't always be here, especially if we're doing something every single weekend, because he's got his own chores to do, and you know, and he's married, and you know, what is it, that honey-do list? He's got things going on too, so he couldn't be here tonight. But it was a good idea to do a bonus episode today, and I do believe things work out for a reason. So tonight we're going to try a little bit of the Edradour 10-year-old. Now, this was distilled in 1999, and it was bottled in 2009, so it was only 10 years in a cask, but they felt pretty good about this cask, and at some point we'll talk about the angel share and why some casks only yield so many bottles and why a younger cask will yield more. But anyway, this was cask number 125, and it yielded 872 bottles, and this is bottle number 110. Now clearly, we've drank some of this bottle. You know, Mal would have us note that this is a little darker in color. It's not advertised as a like a sherry cask or a Madeira cask. This is the wood and the whiskey. Probably was an American bourbon cask, especially if you're not being noted that it's a virgin cask or it's a sherry cask or some other sort of alcohol cask. You can almost guarantee that it probably held American bourbon. And so we've got some nice color after only 10 years. So let's talk a little bit about Edradour. Now, it turns out it is one of the, if not the smallest distilleries in Scotland. How small is it? Well, that's a good question. Now, when we've looked at in the past, let's see if I can get one out real quick. Boy, that's hard. The Glenmorangie range, we've talked about the 10 Men of Tain, which is sort of a historic idea that 10 men ran the Glenmorangie distillery. Edradour, to my knowledge, is run by 4 people, run the entire operation. It is a very small throwback distillery. Very little, if any, modern equipment. Almost all open air distillation, which has its pluses and its minuses. It's really as if you step back into time when you go into this distillery, and they produce such small batches. Let's see what this says. Does it say anything about small batch? Scotland's smallest distillery. And so when you produce small batches, you run into inconsistencies, according to the experts. And it's those inconsistencies that allow folks to feel really good about certain bottlings from small distilleries. And so this particular distillation, this particular release, I believe is very good. So let's see if they say anything about Edradour. And of course they do, right? I mean, I was right, right? Because it's a bottle we knew. So smallest distillery in Scotland, functions as if it was still operating in the 19th century. Almost everything is done by hand. In order to get a tour at the Edradour distillery, you need an appointment. Now, 1963, oh, it's probably not behind me. It might be behind me. 1963. So in 1963, Glenfiddich changed the Scotch industry by releasing and advertising a release of a single malt. Before then, scotches were almost entirely blended, and if you got a single malt, it really wasn't a mainstream marketed whiskey as a single malt. So in 1963, Glenfiddich did that. Edradour has been releasing itself as a single malt since 1986. I felt like I remembered that number. Let's get it. First bottled as a single malt in 1986. So again, single malts and the collection we have here and the whole deal and the blah, 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 it really is new. So when we open bottles, I don't know if we open bottles from the 70s, and we'll at some point have a bonus episode. We have a pretty old bottle in the bar as well. That means that those casks have been around from before 63, and now they're being released as a single malt. But in general, single malts weren't released labeled before 63 with really any frequency. Blends were the way to go because of consistency. Edradour, smallest distillery. So lately, a lot of companies, more international conglomerates, have bought a lot of distilleries, and Pernod out of France will own a bunch, and there are some Japanese companies that will own a bunch of distilleries. In 2002, Edradour was sold back to an individual because it was so small. The big company really didn't know what to do with it, and the inconsistencies and all these little factors of such a small thing not really fitting into a corporate structure. It was sold back to an individual, so it's locally owned, which is excellent. One last little, see what we can learn. Oh, these are just like small words, and we know how I feel about that. Right, essentially it talks a little bit about the inconsistencies, and if you were there and you got a taste and you didn't like it, the very last word in Edradour is you just have to make the terrible sacrifice of coming back another day and trying again. I have had this, and I do believe it to be a decent example of Edradour. Now there is a general release of Edradour. I don't know where it is. It's somewhere in here. I don't really know where it is. This is on the open shelf. Anyway, the camera, right there. You can't see it, but I can see it. And it's a 10-year-old as well, but it's not a single cask. It's just a bunch of 10-year-old casks blended together. Still single malt because it's all done in one operation. And we consider that here at the Bitter End a dessert whiskey. We find it sort of to be honeyed, sweet, some smokiness to it at times. So that's one of the things that we've come to label the Edradour as, a dessert whiskey. All day. They also aren't sending us any money. Mal, this one's for you. Oftentimes we see Mal having a Stella with us. Well, I'll have a Stella with you instead. Okay. So Edradour is our bonus episode whiskey. So what's going on here? It's July 18th. Now it turns out July 18th, because we're going to be born on one of 365 days or something like that, and there's a bonus day here and there in the world. But it is 2 birthdays here at the Bitter End, and it turns out on July 18th. Gonna burp. I got you. We're in a bar. So let's talk a little bit about this box. Now, we've talked a little bit in the past on the videos about the paintball team and the roles and the players and the nicknames. And if you've paid attention to the video series, you've heard some of the stuff. Well, July 18th is our teammate Salami. It's his birthday. Now, his real name is Tony Aquilino. But with us, you get to carry your name. And his name is Salami. And why would we call somebody Salami, right? Did we see him in the locker room one day, right? No, you know, when your name is Tony, you know, the go-to easy name is Tony Baloney. But we don't like to go to the go-to easy name. So we went with Tony Salami. And then we met his brother Mike, group member Mike. And we call Mike Mikey Baloney. And they were the Meat Brothers or the Deli Boys. And as is wont to happen, people expire. And Tony passed a few years ago. Very short illness. Kind of a bummer. Remains a bummer. And it's his birthday. So we think about you a lot, Tony. Now, I didn't realize until today that Tony, that Salami, shares a birthday with my mom. Now, my mom, there she is with me when I was 4 years old in her passport photo. And following that picture, we went to Europe. I had my first trip to Europe. I've been many times since, but my mom took me when I was 4. Awesome, nice lady. And she passed, she would be 73 today. She died when she was 53. She died young. Like Salami, he was a bit younger than her. And boy, that lady, if you know me beyond this series, you know, boy, if she had to raise me, she put up with some shit. I remember once we were having a party on the property. She had gone out for the evening, promised to not return before midnight. Well, we can already see where this is going. At around 10:30, she came home, and I wouldn't let her in the house because there was too many people, and I knew I was busted. That poor lady put up with some stuff. And it's her birthday as well, and she would be 73 today. So, gonna pour myself a glass of the Edradour 10-year-old single cask bottling, bottle 110 of 872. Now, I picked this bottle for a number of reasons, but including that this bottle was distilled the year my mother died. So this has been a bottle that I go to when I acknowledge my mother's birth date or death date. And today was the first time I connected Salami and my mother's birth dates being the same. So, happy birthday, Salami. Happy birthday, Mom. The Edradour 10-year-old. Let's see what we get. It's very robust. 46% alcohol. So it's not a cask strength. But you can nose on some of the thickness in this whiskey. A lot of sweetness attached to it. No medicinal qualities. Here we go. Very faint flavoring of honey. Maybe married in with some caramel. Again, when we talk about their regular release of their 10-year-old being the dessert whiskey, this is what we're talking about. You know, in my early days of trying to become a little bit of a snob, and if you see some of my other video series, right, good luck with that. I would often order a Grand Marnier in a warm glass because I felt that was a nice after-dinner drink. And here we have a nice, warming, sweet whiskey. This would be a nice dessert drink. That is easy drinking for how warm it is through here. So very sweet on the nose, very sweet in the mouth, and then it just warms up. I'm not getting any smoke. I'm just going to put a couple of small little 1, 2 pieces of ice that might even melt before I get the glass up to me. and just see what I'm less interested in the cooling from the ice than I am from a little bit of the flavor range expanding from the water. That is really good. I wish I'd eaten dinner already, because I'm having dessert first. But sometimes you should have dessert first, because we get reminded by the people in our lives that sometimes you don't always get to have dessert. So sometimes, folks, have dessert first. So I think we'll wrap it up with the bonus episode of the Edradour 10-year-old single cask bottling. Is an excellent choice. And again, happy birthday, Mom. Happy birthday, Salami. And, you know, I don't have a cheers in a foreign language, so I'll just say, you know, it is just a happy birthday.